So my name is Micah Gamboa, and my role at Elijah Rising is Executive Director. I've been with the organization, I really had the privilege of being with the organization since right around 2011, so coming up on 10 years now. So I started as a volunteer with Elijah Rising, and then I kind of switched over to a staff position, which I say that kind of loosely because we had, I think we're getting like $200 a month or something, in the beginning. So, and then I was operations director, and then now executive director. And I've been in this role for about 3.5 years. I think there's still a lot of misconceptions around the issue of sex trafficking or human trafficking in general. A lot of people still picture or conjure up kind of media portrayals, which happen, bondage and like chains and all of these kind of abduction is another big misconception. But human trafficking is happening all around us, and almost every single one of us have encountered somebody somewhere, even if it's passing in the grocery store, who have been under some control, force, or fraud. And so, human trafficking is in our neighborhoods, it's in our cities, it's even in the rural areas. And so really one of our roles and one of our passions is to help awaken this community and this generation to what the realities of human trafficking look like. I think any kind of nonprofit or small business startup or ministry startup is just complicated and taxing in general. I think it's a lot more work than people anticipate it being. So, in order to do your mission well, to serve people well, and to govern well, right? To do like the administration well. And so those have been some challenges. I love order and I love governance and I love things to be, fiscally transparent and responsible and all those things. So making sure that we excel in those ways while really learning a lot about trauma and the brain and how it really does affect some of the societal issues that surround sex trafficking and the clients that we serve, really diving deep into those issues so we fully understand them before we maybe misapply our how am I saying this? Before helping people, maybe in damaging them further in a misinadvertent way, if that makes sense. Some major challenges I think that the organization has faced, surprisingly, has been through a lot of like spiritual warfare, which manifests in the natural. We have faced multiple near-death experiences of people on our team, not at the hands of pimps like you might think, but near-death experiences that were just bizarre. We have had lots of slander and accusation from people in the community misunderstanding what we're doing, and just the navigating the challenges of serving an underserved population with under-resourced and under-equipped funds or means. Those are all really big challenges that this kind of organization faces. So it is, I think one misconception that we find pretty regularly around this issue of trafficking, like especially whenever we reach out to donors or supporters, is this misconception that we can somehow fix people or mitigate trauma in a really substantial way in a short amount of time. And so, the process of healing is a lifelong journey, especially when you're dealing with compounded trauma over multiple instances over multiple years, and especially even more so if that trauma began as children, which a lot of the women that we serve, their trauma began, or even their exploitation has begun when they were children, little bitty children. And so we have been very intentional to internally message ourselves to make sure that we are never coming across to the people that we serve as fix it. Like, we're not the hero, we're not the savior. That's only through Jesus, and healing is only through Jesus, and restoration is only through Jesus. And then on top of that, we bring in the highest quality trauma care and counselors and clinical expertise to make sure that we are looking at the person holistically, as well as looking at the societal or the environmental, the relational, financial kind of factors that may have contributed to her being in a place of exploitation in the first place. And so it really does take a lot of time, a lot of manpower, a lot of journeying with people in the highs, in the lows, in the journey that isn't always linear. It isn't always just a perfect line upwards, of healing and emotional strength and maturity and overcoming PTSD and all those things, So it ebbs and it flows. And so what we want to provide through Elijah Rising is a very concentrated time where this person or this woman solely can focus on her restoration journey without all the encumbrance of life, paying your bills and getting a job and all those things. We want her to have that really safe, dedicated space in order to just completely focus on herself, which by and large, they've never had that experience granted to them. And then post-graduation, after our program, we want to walk with them. Once a woman is in the Elijah Rising family, we never want them to feel like they're estranged from us. And so that's a really important aspect. The post-graduation care is another aspect that we're really committed to as well. For me personally, I've always had an inclination or a heart towards justice. And that's manifested in several different ways. But I feel a call from the Lord. I feel like every believer, and really every person on earth, is called to love God and love your neighbor. And so this is one way that I can tangibly love my neighbor. This was a field that was underdeveloped at the time that I started, and really still is underdeveloped, misunderstood, underdeveloped, under-resourced, all of the things. But I see these women in every place, every street that I drive down in Houston. I see them in my neighborhoods. I see them in the buildings. And so it was something that it was so apparent and in front of me that I felt like I was doing an injustice to my neighbor to turn a blind eye to. And so step by step has led me into working full time in this mission. But that's not everyone's call. And you individually can make an impact. You can make a difference specifically in this issue through numerous different ways by using the gifts, the talents at the time, and the treasure that the Lord has entrusted to you. So I would say to every person watching, if your heart is stirred for the issue of sex trafficking or human trafficking, if you want to make an impact, there is a way for you to make an impact, I assure you. No matter what age or demographic or how much time you have, how much money you have, there's a calling and a place for you in this movement. And so we've seen over and over again when people come to the table, like they come to organizations to just give what they have, whether it be, they're good at writing and so we can plug them in to help us write grants, or maybe they're really good at advertising and they can advise us, or maybe they're clinicians and they're psychologists and OTs and therapists and LPCs. Like, we need every kind of person, age group, volunteer base. We need every type of strength and skill set to be applied to this movement, whether it's with an organization that's local or national or international. I assure you there's a place. And so don't give up as you're looking for a place to make an impact.